was an imperfect student. I was dismissive, I was stubborn, I was arrogant in junior high, and yes, despite my efforts to be anything but, I am a career teacher in the middle of my 30th year. At this point in my career, I've pretty much seen it all. But there was a moment early on that so unnerved me, I nearly walked away. Back in the day when such things were possible, my guidance counselor in my elementary school in Aiken County, South Carolina, asked me to keep my most difficult student with me after school whenever I could. Take her on errands with you, Mary said. Do whatever it was you were going to do anyway. Drop her off before dinner, but do not go into the house. I need her to see how normal people act. So I did. And as we went to Walmart, the post office, the library, kind of wherever, I began to discover that there was actually quite a lot to like about this little girl. And as she built connections with me, she began to reach out and build connections with her classmates. Things were turning around. But as this was going on, the counselor was building the abuse case that would culminate in an afternoon that began with a phone call from the office that said, "Do not give Amy to anyone without a badge," and ended with said men with badges arriving in my classroom door to remove her, presumably not to be back, in front of full view of all my other students. I found out later that her mother had been in the front office frantically trying to withdraw her and flee the state. And I was correct. She wouldn't be back. She would go from my classroom to a pediatric inpatient mental health facility to the foster system. As things wound down that afternoon, one of my boys looked up and said, "You know, that's too bad," just as she was getting better. My 25-year-old self was crushed. I had gone into teaching believing I could make a difference. And here was stark evidence that the job of saving the world, heck, of even saving one kid, was so much bigger than I. 2 years in, I was ready to quit. Never again. I cannot go back through that. Well, 28 years on, I have a lot more stories, and to be honest, that one's not even the worst. It's just the one for which I was least prepared. In a career that spans 3 states, 4 districts, and grades K through 8, I have for decades been underpaid and underappreciated, subject to the whim of legislators who have not stepped foot in a public school classroom since they were 18 years old. That have no idea what my day-to-day struggle entails or what my profession needs. And yet, I stay. And at this point, with so many leaving the profession, it's fair to ask, how have you stayed? The short answer is this. Once upon a time, I believed in the myth of the teacher as a superhero. And what I've come to understand is that teachers don't need superpowers. They need staying power. We teachers are in the business of growing things. And growth, I've learned, can be a rather messy endeavor. Ask the farmer Ask the lab assistant. Ask the parent dragging the screaming toddler out of Target. They know. Part of building staying power has been recognizing that my growth, just like that of my students, might not be linear or tidy, and that progress is more important than perfection. In fact, perfection is the enemy of staying power, and it's something with which I sometimes struggle. I am one of those recovering Pinterest teachers. And while the triple-bordered bulletin boards are still a thing, all right, so that's actually 4. I can quit anytime I want. I have ratcheted back on the things that add more stress than value to my classroom. And while, of course, I know my content, my lessons are carefully planned, I know, not I think or I feel, I know where my students are in their continuum of learning. Sometimes the lesson falls flat. That data point doesn't hit quite where I hoped it would. Most days we move learning forward. The rare day, we take what we can get. Hey, nobody ate the glue. But the good news is, in a career that spans 30 years, there are more than 5,000 opportunities to get it right tomorrow. Embracing growth and seeing past perfection is an important aspect of building staying power. Some things are simply the nature of the beast. Children are, after all, children. One year, I found myself in October in a new school teaching kindergarten. Y'all, I am not a traditional kindergarten teacher. And the tattling. Children that age tattle. It is a developmental thing, and that puts it outside my locus of control. But it was driving me bonkers. So I finally said something to one of my teammates, and she suggested this. Go find a picture of the president. Tape it on the wall at eyeball height to a 5-year-old. And when a child comes to tattle, not report, tattle, 2 different things. When a child comes to tattle, I should say, oh, go tell the president. They did. And they were happy. I wish I had a picture to show you because it was insane. Who'd have thought? But it was a solution that honored the developmental level of the children, which means that I didn't waste energy on something I can't solve. Part of building staying power is knowing how to spend your energy. Colleagues like my kindergarten friend and the so many others with whom I have shared long field trips and very short lunches can help us build our staying power. The flip of that is that the wrong relationships can drain it away. Knowing how to choose your tribe is key. Y'all remember the parent dragging the screaming toddler out of Target? That was me. And that screaming toddler is currently studying elementary education. He had an assignment last year that he should ask a veteran teacher for a valuable piece of advice. I told him this: Find the teachers who love to teach, the ones who love children and all of their childrenness. Stick to them like glue. There are teachers who have lost their joy and their purpose, and they've become jaded and resentful, and they are always, always recruiting. Politely refuse them. I find staying power in my relationships with my students. I'm that teacher, doesn't matter what grade, doesn't even matter what school. I get those Clarke can handle them classes. And on the days that I ponder whether can handle has to always mean must handle, I remember how quickly those tough students circle around to care for me. On March 19th, 2019, a Tuesday, I woke up a widow. My husband's passing was sudden. The love and care with which my colleagues, my admin, a former student who was doing her student funeral home directing and magically turned a simple, inexpensive carnation casket spray into a work of art made of roses and paid the difference out of her own pocket. And my 7th grade students, with so many handwritten expressions such as, heart, I can't draw for crap. Just for you, Mrs. Clarke, I have not and will not be playing games in class. And our class is always there for you, just like you are for us. Made all the difference. Brought me back to school and to the land of the living. The power of growing things at work. Now, lest you think that this is some sappy, do-it-all for the kids kind of teacher talk, or that I've developed Stockholm Syndrome, let me assure you, part of building staying power is speaking out against that which is unfair and unreasonable. It's been a minute, I'm just saying. We are not compensated for what we put into our students and into our classrooms. Our workloads are ever increasing. Our safety isn't guaranteed. This does not fall entirely outside of our control. And being an advocate for teachers and for teaching is vital. I am an imperfect teacher. And once upon a time, I found myself in an impossible situation. But from it, I've learned children don't need teachers with superpowers. They need those that know when to dismiss the habits and mindsets that get in the way of growth. Those that stubbornly cling to the beauty inherent in the pursuit of progress. And those that are arrogant enough to demand the leadership and the respect that we deserve. Our children need teachers with staying power.